This is WTVJ, Miami, Fort Lauderdale.
This is the Channel 4 News at 5:30 with Susan Lichtman, Bob Mayer, Bob Weaver, weather, Nick Bogert, environment, Tony Segreto, sports, and the Channel 4 News team.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Bob Mayer.
And I'm Susan Lichtman. Top stories on Channel 4 News at this hour. A warning tonight about South Florida gangs. Experts say they are becoming more sophisticated and more violent. Did a cellmate close to the case against Charlie Commander? Sources say Charlie drew a body parts map and the cellmate gave it to police. And static on the line, Southern Bell investigates why more than 1,000 customers are having trouble hearing their calls. We'll have these stories at 6.
But topping this newscast, the cocaine case that shocked D.C. Vicious protesters taunt Washington Mayor Marion Barry on trial for smoking crack. But Channel 4's Steve Handelsman says the fighting mayor won't back down.
D.C. Mayor Marion Barry arrived for trial this morning on charges he's used cocaine since 1984 and lied about it to a grand jury. The case came together in an FBI sting at this hotel last January. Lured by a former girlfriend working for the feds, Barry was videotaped smoking crack.
Did you have cocaine in that hotel, Mr. Mayor?
For years, there had been rumors Barry used cocaine, but he denied it.
That never in my lifetime have I used any illegal drugs. I've said that over and over again.
After his bust, Barry claimed he was alcoholic. He sought treatment and denied responsibility for what had happened. This was local talk radio today.
It's not a moral issue. This disease thing takes control of your body and your mind, and you really don't have a lot to say about it.
But after his arrest, former friends of the mayor had a lot to say about his alleged drug use, and soon there were more charges. Long-term conspiracy to use cocaine, and 2 counts of lying to a grand jury, a felony. Jury selection began today, a key part of the trial. Hundreds of prospects came in to fill out questionnaires in a process that could take all week. Barry remains popular, and in predominantly black Washington, many in the potential jury pool believe their outspoken leader has been targeted unfairly by the white Justice Department. Barry figures that could get him acquitted. All it takes is one juror, he boasted last week, one juror saying, "I'm not going to convict Marion Barry." But the mayor and the prosecutors may decide not to risk a jury trial, and plea bargaining is rumored, with negotiations reportedly stuck on the felony charges. If the mayor pleads guilty to even one of those, he's out of office. At the federal courthouse in Washington, this is Steve Handelsman, Channel 4 News.
Here at home, trouble continues to plague the trial of accused cop killer Charles Street. Jury selection now in a record 10th week has been put off until next Monday. One of the lawyers in the case requested that delay for medical reasons. Some 300 prospective jurors have been quizzed, but a jury is still not seated. Street's accused of killing 2 Metro-Dade police officers back in November of 1988. Bob?
A Tampa mother accused of strangling her 2 kids has been found not guilty by reason of insanity. As reporter Rob North tells us, Dorothy Rose broke down in the courtroom as she heard the verdict.
Rose walked into the Hillsborough County Courthouse this morning. Her doctors say she's gained nearly 50 pounds since this videotape was recorded shortly after the murders. Inside the courtroom, Rose cried while medical experts argued over her future. The issues: should Rose be involuntarily hospitalized? Is Rose still a threat to herself and her estranged husband? But the medical health experts all agree. Dorothy Diane Rose still hasn't accepted the murders of her 2-year-old son Michael and his 13-month-old sister Jessica.
At this point, she really does not believe that the children are dead. She still has the belief that she is, that the children are alive. Repeatedly says they were too young to die, and they didn't deserve to die, and therefore she believes that they're really just sleeping and that they are going to return someday.
Judge Graybill ruled Rose is still dangerous and committed her to HRS custody. But her lawyers and her families wanted her sent back to St. Joseph's Psychiatric Ward and eventual outpatient treatment, and they believe sending her to a state mental hospital will hurt her.
I think she wouldn't get the family support. She wouldn't get the meaningful and personal attention that she's gotten at St. Joe's, and it just would not be in anybody's best interest, society or her.
A Florida teenager convicted in murder in the infamous Pinellas Park school shooting is already out of jail. Jason McCoy's been released from prison after serving just 15 months of a 6-year term. The shooting took place when school administrators learned McCoy and a friend had brought guns to the school. An assistant principal was killed. 2 others were hurt. McCoy must still serve 15 months of probation. Susan?
Miami Secret Service agents tonight are holding thousands of dollars, none of it worth a cent. As Channel 4's Susan Wallace tells us, the bad bucks were part of an elaborate counterfeiting system that involved dealing in crack cocaine.
They stand accused of making money, lots of money, $100,000 worth of funny money. 3 Miami men are behind bars charged with counterfeiting. The Secret Service says the fake dough doesn't even come close to looking or feeling real.
It's poor quality paper. It's not good quality printing. It's just not a good counterfeit. It's not a good bill.
Agents allege the suspects only made small bills, 1s, 5s, 10s, and 20s, and they used the money to buy crack cocaine, which they would turn around and sell for pure profit. And just as agents were keeping an eye on a Homestead house, the alleged headquarters, some of the nearly dissolved money floated up from the bottom of the Miami River.
Money was dumped in the river because someone had a package of it that they either felt was getting hot, or they just wanted to dump it to get away from it and didn't know how else to get rid of it to not be tied to the evidence.
Agents say some of the funny money did make it to the streets. They figure probably 20 bills changed hands before agents shut down the money makers. Each suspect is being held on a $250,000 bond. In Miami, Susan Wallace, Channel 4 News.
Score a victory today for prosecutors who want to use evidence seized by police during house searches. The U.S. Supreme Court today says any items discovered in plain view in a person's home may be used as evidence against them, even if police have not obtained a formal search warrant. The Supreme Court also upheld the rights of student prayer groups today, saying they must be given the same access to meet in public schools as any other extracurricular activity. Opponents thought the prayer groups shouldn't be allowed to meet on school grounds, claiming it would be a violation of separation of church and state. Justice Sandra Day O'Connor says the court's decision doesn't amount to a government endorsement of religion in school. Bob?
Well, some school students are learning tough lessons about guns, and that tops our neighborhood news tonight. The Broward County School Board declaring this Gun Safety Awareness Week. So Fort Lauderdale schools are responding with special classes to teach kids about the dangers of firearms. And you're eligible for aspirin if you travel across the Brickell Avenue Bridge in downtown Miami these days. It is getting stuck all the time in the up position, apparently because of a burned out motor. Crews are going to have to replace it, and that means traffic is going to have to be rerouted.
South Florida has taken a pounding tonight. The Weather Service reporting heavy storms in the western areas of Dade and Broward County, moving to the east. Heavy winds damaged 11 planes at the Tamiami Airport. A tornado has been sighted in Tamarack. Channel 4 News crew is on the way to that scene, but Bonnie Anderson is now in South Dade with reports of trouble there. Bonnie?
Well, we're at US 1 and Southwest 67th Street, and fortunately, as you can see, it is not raining here, but that's not the case south of us as well as other parts of the county. Now, behind me, you can see a number of very threatening clouds. Those are probably the clouds that just came from Homestead, where there was a tremendous amount of rain and flooding today. We're also hearing that the storms are now over other parts of Dade and Broward. Now, the National Weather Service issued an urban flood statement this afternoon for heavy thunderstorms that were increasing in intensity. Rainfall of 3 inches an hour is associated with this type of slow-moving thunderstorm, and it's moving about 5 to 8 miles per hour. In Hialeah, one person called in and said that he had gotten 2 inches of rain between 3:30 and 4:30. Now, the Weather Service is telling people to be prepared for high water in low-lying areas and for fast-moving water near drainage systems. Thunderstorms like this, by the way, also tend to produce a lot of lightning and hail and high winds, so they're telling people to be prepared for that and to look out, seek shelter if necessary. Back to you.
They were talking, Bonnie, about urging children to stay indoors because they were concerned that the real heavy rains could possibly get them in the storm drain.
Absolutely. That goes back to being careful about the fast-moving water that goes into the storm system.
Okay, Bonnie, we'll get back with you a little bit later on. Of course, one of the concerns about the system is that it is so slow-moving, and that's what's causing these urban flood alerts. Bob Weaver's at the Weather Board to fill us in. Bob?
Well, there's nothing much more I can add to what you've already heard, so let's take a look at what's happening in some of the other things around the country. First of all, although we do not have any tropical activity here, this is one that's off of the Mexican coast moving away, but look how nice that configuration is. That's Boris, and if you have any interest there, It's moving about 10 knots to the west. It's slowed down a little bit. The last hour, it came down to about 5 or 6, but the winds are up to about 65 in some areas. It could strengthen. Here we take a look at the Florida weather picture. This was a little earlier. Showers and thunderstorms north. There are only a few down here. Now, as we get the close-up, you can see all the heavy area. It extends from the Homestead section all the way up north to the Palm Beaches. Right now, they have severe weather warnings out from Davie to about Pompano for the very heavy showers and thunderstorms that are moving across. Otherwise, as you look at the state, just hang on for about an hour or so. A lot of this should be out of here, but if you're driving, extra careful. The roads are going to be very slick, and there will be flooding in many of the urban areas around. Let's take a look at our forecast now. It'll be partly sunny with showers, a few thunderstorms. The high temperature about 90 to 95 tomorrow. The low overnight tonight about 75 for boating. The winds out of the southwest, 10 seas, 2 to 4 feet. Waters near shore, a light chop. And your 5-day forecast, we'll look for afternoon showers and thunderstorms. I don't think they'll be as bad as today, but they will be around in temperatures in the 90s. Well, that's the weather. How about some more news now?
I'm kind of glad we're inside during this rush hour.
Me too. And, you know, there is another issue clouding the moral front tonight. Are they sexual saviors or legal prostitutes? Coming up next, a special report on sex surrogates paid to help people perform better in bed.
Some sterile medflies aren't performing their sexual duties, and that could mean trouble for South Florida. And a Los Angeles man could make it into the Baseball Hall of Fame without ever taking the field. We're going to explain that later on the Channel 4 News.
Finally, a new radio station that's really different. South Florida's new Coast, 97.3 FM. Only the best of the 70s, 80s, and today. Phil Collins, Gloria Estefan, Lionel Richie, Billy Joel. You made me right. The new Coast, 97.3 FM. No talking over the music, ever. And they always tell you the songs they play. Listen as soon as you can.
Over the past quarter century, people have been celebrating their birthdays, anniversaries, promotions, their most intimate moments at Benihana. So if you have something to celebrate, do it at Benihana. Benihana, the most celebrated restaurant in America.
If Benihana is your favorite restaurant, join the club! Join the Benihana Club and save on every meal.
If you advertise in Dade or Broward County, you need to read Between the Lines, the report on media usage in South Florida. Learn how consumers perceive your message depending on the media you use and ways to get a bigger return on your advertising investments. To receive your free copy of the report that every advertiser must read, call our advertising department at this station now. In Dade, 789-4100, or in Broward, 525-3331. Read Between the Lines, the report on media usage in South Florida.
Topping our environmental news tonight, a renewed warning about contaminated water in Biscayne Bay. Parts of the bay have been off limits to swimmers since Friday because of raw sewage that was found in the waterway. The tests were taken today show there's still high levels of bacteria in the water. We're going to have more on the story, including when experts think that mess will clear up, on Channel 4 News at 6. South Florida's air attack on the medfly problem appears to be over for a while. Officials are going to stop the malathion spraying to test Plan B. They are releasing hundreds of sterile medflies in Miami, hoping to disrupt the reproduction cycle. But the bad news, early tests show the sterile flies have a very low sex drive and might not try to mate.
And they can't get help. But people with diminished sex drive or other sexual problems can go to surrogates for help. In tonight's Montage Newsbreaker, Channel 4's Bonnie Anderson tells us this therapy, which dates back to the 70s, is still quite controversial.
Sex is a touchy subject. When you're getting it and how often is a topic many people feel should be left behind closed doors. Some might say sex isn't everything, but it can be when you're having a problem.
After actually exploring everything I knew to do and could not succeed in getting erections by myself. Ended up in a psychiatrist's office. He determined I did not have an aversity to women, that I was physically okay, and asked if I wanted to participate in a surrogate program.
This is how David Yoblik met sex educator Dr. Marilyn Volker. She was a sex surrogate during the late 70s.
A sexual surrogate is a trained partner that is knowledgeable in anatomy and physiology, is knowledgeable in a process of helping a person who has a sexual dysfunction.
Marilyn says a surrogate is used when someone does not have a partner, and the misconception is a surrogate leaps into bed and has sex. In fact, usually the patient is not able to perform, and it can be a long process before someone becomes sexually healthy.
The majority of activities that I did were called sensate focus activities. They were non-genital activities. They could be breathing together, body awareness exercises. They could be touching, massage, stroking, showers together. The kinds of activities where people found out about their body responses without the threat of performance anxiety. In fact, for many men, by the time we got to stroking the face, the hair, the back, the chest, the legs, where a lot of men were getting erections, they didn't need the surrogate anymore.
Marilyn says she didn't have intercourse with about 97% of the men she worked with. Still, she found herself being intimate with virtual strangers.
Were there men that I would not be personally turned on by? Sure, but that was not the purpose.
As for David, it took him about a year, but with Marilyn's help and discussing his feelings with a therapist, he overcame his problem.
It is not a magic answer. It does not work for everybody. Some people I don't think are good candidates, and I also think it can be abused and not used correctly. I would have never worked by myself, never. I think that it needs to be in a team approach. I think the main connection, the main relationship is the patient and the therapist, not the patient and the surrogate.
But there are those who say Marilyn was nothing more than a glorified prostitute. David feels differently.
A prostitute would give me exactly what I wanted. I'd pay them some money, and whatever I would like, I would get. With a surrogate, you don't get what you want.
Ironically, David was Marilyn's last patient. They became personally involved and have been together for 11 years.
David was the only man in all those years that I personally was attracted to.
Story.
And probably because he was confident.
But in these sexually conservative times, there are those who might feel the story of David and Marilyn has an immoral ending.
I was suffering a dysfunction, and Marilyn and other surrogates like her performed a service that allowed me to function, quote, normally. And I think it's everybody's right to perform normally. And if that service that was provided allowed me to do it, how dare anybody say that it's wrong?
Now, in case you're wondering, sex surrogates aren't just for men. There are surrogates for women as well.
Well, Donald Trump may need a financial surrogate. Bankers are dumping on the Donald, saying Trump's in trouble. That story's coming up.
Trouble with the shuttle Columbia could ground other space missions. We'll show you why. And we'll join a young ball player waiting by the phone to see if he scored in the baseball draft. Tony tells us next on the Channel 4 News.
An American manufacturer of big and tall clothing produced 35,000 suits and sold 31,000 to specialty stores. What happened to the rest?
A famous designer made 65,000 dresses, sold 58,000 to department stores. What happened to the rest?
A fine manufacturer made 60,000 shoes and sold 52,000 to shoe stores. What happened to the rest?
All designer and brand names, all at off price, all the time.
The art of makeup, the science of skincare, the allure of fragrance, all in our gift to you. A special collection filled with 5 makeup, fragrance, and skincare products, including white linen parfum spray and night repair. It's your bonus with any Estee Lauder purchase of $12.50 or more. The world of Estee Lauder, it's a beautiful place to be. This gift is yours through June 16th at Lord & Taylor.
I got it! I got it!
Remember, it's not whether you win or lose, but where you go after the game. Carvel, it's everybody's soft spot.
Shoot video like a pro. Get expert advice from Channel 4's Emmy award-winning photography team. Watch Home Video Hints, Friday on Channel 4 News at 5:30. Sponsored by South Florida Area Sound Advice. Boaters, here are a few environmental tips for your next outing from Channel 4. Before you drop anchor, make sure you're not over a reef. Let's preserve our precious treasures. Never throw your trash overboard. Use a litter bag and dispose of it when you return to the marina. Help keep our waters clean. And when you're done fishing, don't discard your fishing lines into the water. They can get entangled in floating plants that manatees eat. Help save our manatees.
Save South Florida. It's a matter of pride.
Since his son's arrest for murder, Marlon Brando's been making headlines. But only on the next Entertainment Tonight can you get the inside story on the lifelong controversy surrounding the man who's been called one of the greatest actors of all time.
No matter how famous you are, your private life can be hell sometimes.
What makes a living legend seek an island exile? And what will he do now that it's been shattered by family troubles? Marlon Brando, the inside stories on Entertainment Tonight.
Entertainment Tonight, weeknights at 7:30, only on Channel 4.
Taking a look now at the top stories at this hour, a whirlwind day for Mr. Gorbachev, the Soviet leader wrapping up his visit to the United States, meeting with former President Reagan, but canceling some activities because there just wasn't enough time. Developer Donald Trump is reportedly in deep financial trouble. Bankers saying he needs to sell off assets and change his opulent lifestyle to pay his bills. And the Space Shuttle Columbia might have to be hauled back to its hangar for repairs, which could delay its launch and the shuttle program by up to 2 months.
No more delays for a local baseball hero. He is finally going to the show. Tony's at the sports desk with that and more. Tony?
Oh, the whitewater rafter returns.
Oh, yes.
Fun?
Whitewater rafting in a blizzard.
Yeah, I heard.
Smart.
I heard. All right, we're going to talk baseball. It was draft day for Major League Baseball teams, and what a day it was for Miami and Alex Fernandez and his family. You'll remember Fernandez, a pitcher for Miami Pace High, turned down a $100,000 plus offer out of high school, went on to become an All-American freshman at the University of Miami. Now, he transferred to Dade South for this season so he could be eligible for today's draft, and boy, it all paid off today.
For years, this was the day Alex Fernandez had waited for. Friends, family, and media gathered at his uncle's house to see where the 20-year-old pitching phenom would begin his professional career. Around draft time, Alex was a little edgy.
I'm kind of nervous and just anxious, I guess. Really looking forward to the phone call. Have no idea what's going to happen.
But the wait for that phone call would be much more suspenseful than anticipated.
Wrong number? No, they hung up.
Everyone, but the one person they were waiting for, kept calling.
Who's this? No, Mike, not yet. Call later. No, we're waiting right here, and all the cameras are on me right now. We'll pick up the phone.
It took 18 calls before the right one came at 1:30, and Fernandez was in the bathroom.
Hello? Yes. Yeah, pretty much. I'm very excited. Chicago White Sox.
It was the team he wanted all along, and minutes after he became the 4th player and first pitcher drafted, a White Sox representative was there to sign him for a $350,000 bonus.
I'm very happy. It's like winning Fantasies 5, I feel.
This is a happy day for us. We're happy, and Alex is happy. Besides his physical abilities, we like his heart, his dedication, his work ethics, his family, good make-up people, good citizens. He has character. He is not a character. He has character.
Both Fernandez and the White Sox hope he can be pitching in the major leagues within a few months.
I'm very happy with the White Sox team that I've always wanted to play for. Ever since they had the collar uniform, I remember those times. It was a very unique team, and I think I'm a unique type of guy.
This day was a dream come true for the entire family.
This is a very important moment in my life, you know. It's my dream, you know, in my life. And Alex do that on my dream.
My gift to my parents is to see me pitch in the big leagues one day.
That's great. Now, Fernandez will be assigned to Sarasota of the Florida State League to get in shape, but he and the White Sox think he can be in the major leagues very soon, as I said, maybe a couple of months. Hurricane pitcher Oscar Munoz went to Cleveland in the 5th round today. Westminster Christian pitcher shortstop Ron Caradad was taken in the 2nd round by the Minnesota Twins. We will have more on Fernandez and the draft coming up in sports at 6 o'clock. Susan, back to you.
It's nice to see something nice happen to such a wonderful family.
Absolutely terrific. And you know, last year when they lost the College World Series, it was probably the downtime in their lives. They turned it around, and they're extremely happy. Good for them.
Okay, Tony. We'll see you at 6. Thanks.
Congratulations to him. Well, his nutty tosses could land a guy who works for peanuts in the Baseball Hall of Fame. That story coming up next.
But first, let's check out what's ahead in the next half hour.
Coming up at 6, South Florida's gang problem is growing more violent, sending local authorities racing to Los Angeles for help.
We'll have big story coverage live from L.A. We'll join New Jersey detectives in Fort Lauderdale, trying to link the body parts killing to a similar mutilation murder in their state. And John Holden says help is needed to solve a mystery at Miami's Police Museum. These stories and much more coming up in just minutes on South Florida's Big News.
We were expecting a baby. We got 3 babies.
Life is full of surprises. You never know what will be.
Who can say what's in store for tomorrow? We'll just have to wait and see. You never know. You never know. Life's an adventure. You never know.
Life is full of surprises. Keep this in mind next time you play Lotto.
You never know.
Get early week special Sunday through Wednesday at Winn-Dixie. If you're planning on a spaghetti dinner, try fresh ground turkey, just 99 cents a pound for 3 pounds or more. A 32-ounce bottle of Heinz ketchup is only 97 cents. Limit 1, please. Here's a perfect summertime dessert. Harvest fresh California strawberries. 3 pints are $1.98. And pick up an in-store flyer for extra values good all month at your Winn-Dixie and Winn-Dixie Marketplace stores.
When this truck landed in a neighbor's yard, Carlos Metamoros grabbed his home video camera and started shooting. When Raul Alonso witnessed this late-night police chase, he shouted and called Channel 4 News. Now, you could be a Channel 4 News watcher, too. Stop by your local South Florida Sound Advice and pick up a registration form. You'll get a home video tip sheet, a Channel 4 News watcher ID, certificate, keychain, and a valuable free seminar. Plus, if we use your video on Channel 4 News, you may even earn some extra cash. So stop by Sound Advice and become a Channel 4 News watcher today.
Well, it's time to start planning that summer vacation, and if beautiful, quiet countryside is your style, Channel 4 travel reporter Mike Sanford's found just the place.
You notice right away that nature is still very much in charge. The winds blowing brisk and steady across this narrow strip of land. The seas often rough, for mariners unforgiving. More than 600 ships have come to grief in the treacherous storms and shoals offshore. You'll find the Outer Banks about midway down the Atlantic seaboard, a windswept string of barrier islands 20 miles east of North Carolina's mainland. Rarely more than a mile or 2 wide, with bays and inlets on one side, the Atlantic on the other. With all that open water, it's not surprising that the fishing here is considered by some to be the best on the eastern seaboard. The beaches are clean and abundant, more than 70 miles. Though with a rough surf, it's best to swim only where lifeguards are on duty. For families, there are enough traditional attractions to keep everyone occupied. History buffs can explore places like Fort Raleigh, site of the first English settlement in the New World. And those steady breezes are a big draw for hang gliders and windsurfers, just as many decades before, the Wright brothers chose this place for man's first powered flight. In our next report, we'll visit Kitty Hawk. On North Carolina's Outer Banks, I'm Mike Sanford.
If you travel to Los Angeles, you might want to check out the country's nuttiest pitcher, who says this season might well be his best. Roger Owens is Dodger Stadium's premier peanut pitcher, entertaining fans for 32 years now. His nutty tosses have made him so famous, some folks want him voted into the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Well, he's part of the whole Dodger lore. If without it, you know, you're watching a baseball game, and it has that lull in there, and he brings it back to life again.
His record is 2,000 bags thrown in one game, an athletic feat which required him to ice his arm afterward, but he's been fortunate enough to avoid the dreaded disease, the dreaded condition, peanut elbow.
Oh, please. You know what his favorite magazine is?
What?
Cracked. What can I tell you?
That wraps up the Channel 4 News at 5:30.
Stay tuned. Coming up, the Channel 4 News at 6, the latest on the wet weather.
South Florida gangs are growing, sending Broward deputies racing for help to the mean streets of L.A. We're going to have big story coverage.
We'll have the latest results of a sewage test in Biscayne Bay that could sink your swimming plans. And we'll show you why your phone calls aren't coming through loud and clear.
Steve Abrams is off tonight, so Bob Mayer's sticking around. South Florida's Big News is next.
This is WTVJ, Miami, Fort Lauderdale.
This is the Channel 4 News at 6, South Florida's Big News, with Susan Lichtman, Steve Abrams, Bob Weaver, weather, Tony Segreto, sports, and the Channel 4 News team.
Good evening. South Florida is being pounded tonight by stormy weather, high winds, and heavy rains wreaking havoc. Channel 4's David Bloom is at the Tamiami Airport, where there has been some trouble. David?
Well, Susan, we arrived here just a few minutes ago, but we understand that as many as 11 planes out here at the airport were damaged by very, very high winds that hit around 3 o'clock this afternoon. You can see this is the top of a Ford pickup truck that was ripped off when the plane hit it. Actually, the plane was lifted up into the air. You can see this C-46 plane, the hole in it from where it landed, apparently on top of this Ford pickup truck. You can see the damage here where the Ford was just ripped out. I mean, there was a lot of damage here. We can't show you all the planes right now. As I say, we just got here and we wanted to get it on the air as quickly as we could, but there was significant damage, 11 planes. This one obviously badly damaged. Apparently the wind actually picked it up and lifted the plane over and knocked the pickup truck over. So some very, very high winds out here at Tamiami Airport. Susan?
Okay, David, thanks very much. Of course, the concern about this particular system has to do with the fact that it's so slow moving. Therefore, a lot of rain is being dumped on the area. Bob Weaver's at the weather map to tell us more. Bob?
Well, here's the very latest picture. This is the 6 o'clock picture now, and notice it is getting out of here, but very, very slowly. There are still showers and thunderstorms from south to north. Right now, they have severe weather warnings out from about Davie all the way up to Pompano, and that's going to continue for a while. These heavy thunderstorms now still have to march across. The ones to the south have to do the same. Talk about flooding. There was a lot of it around. In the Homestead area, they had heavy amounts of rainfall. The streets in that area were flooded. They have about 1 to 3 inches of rainfall all up and down the area. We had some pictures to show you, but we'll do that perhaps a little bit later. In the meantime, let me caution you again. It is still here. It has to move across. It is slow moving. It's about 1 to 3 inches of rainfall per hour, so you're going to find slick streets. I'll have a complete weather report for you a little later on. Now here's Susan.
Slick streets and slow traffic. Thanks, Bob. Bob?
Experts tonight warning South Florida's gang problem is growing, becoming more violent, more sophisticated, and more active. And that has sent police racing to L.A. for help. We have big story coverage tonight, beginning with Channel 4's Katrina Daniel.
We first started off with the auto thefts and the robberies and all that. We're starting to see them getting involved in the drug trade.
South Florida's teen gang members are getting smarter, tougher, and better organized. Teen gang experts say many gangs are trading up.
We've had several gangs that have been involved solely in drug transactions, and not just locally, but exporting cocaine out of town, New York, Washington, D.C.
Gang members are terrorizing students at Booker T. Washington Middle School.
Most of the kids get scammed, most of the kids get jumped.
A lot of kids get hurt, and it's just not fun. I don't think students come to school to fight. You come to school to get an education, and fight shouldn't be allowed.
New laws have made gang membership illegal, so many gang members have gone underground. But police say they're still as strong as ever and spreading. There are 62 active gangs in Dade, 32 in Broward. The most active Dade gangs are the Latin Kings, Latin Force, Side by Side, and the International Posse. In Broward, it's the Zulus, Knockout Posse, the Brotherhood, and the Davy Boys. Dade County has about 3,500 to 4,000 gang members. There are slightly fewer in Broward, but police say Broward's gangs are more violent and better organized. School gets out in about 3 weeks. On the one hand, that means many gang members will be separated. They won't be seeing each other every day. On the other hand, it means a lot of kids will be left with not much to do. Police expect to see a lot more home burglaries, home invasions, and auto thefts, all committed by gang members. Experts believe that as teen gangs grow in strength here, they could become as bad as the situation in Los Angeles. Then LA's present will become South Florida's future. In Miami, Katrina Daniel, Channel 4 News.
Now, deputies from Broward County are in Los Angeles tonight trying to learn how to fight gangs at the source.
We continue our big story coverage now with Channel 4's Ari Odzer, who followed those officers to L.A. Ari.
Well, Bob and Susan, if Los Angeles is an example, then we as South Florida residents better hope our gang problem does not get out of hand. Because let me tell you, the situation out here is unbelievable. Teenagers kill teenagers just about every weekend with hardly a thought for human life. Now, already this year, more than 100 people have been killed in the Los Angeles area in gang-related violence. And that's why the leader of the Broward Sheriff's Office gang unit is here in L.A. this week, trying to learn as much as he can about the gang situation out here to prevent a similar bloodbath from happening in South Florida. The city of panoramic views, movie stars, and star-studded sidewalks is now becoming famous for this.
What about my daughter, Nika?
Street gang violence. Heavily armed teenagers shoot each other for fun in this town. Something that would shock South Florida residents is just par for the course in L.A.
Apparently this is something that happens all the time here. Rival gangs get together, one rival gang crashed another rival gang's party, and boom, it started.
Lieutenant Robert Friedman of the Broward County Sheriff's Office is being educated this week in Los Angeles. His teachers are police officers who specialize in fighting gangs which control the local drug trade and often use assault rifles to outgun the police. Deputy, this stuff was taken from gangs?
Yes, was.
All confiscated?
Yes.
This was made in Miami, Florida.
Right.
Isn't that strange? From Miami to L.A.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to take on one of these. You know, that kind of stuff I can leave for the movies. I don't want to be no hero that way. You know, these young kids, 17, 18 years old, have a few beers, adrenaline starts flowing, they all start slapping each other. Yeah, let's go shoot them up. And next thing you know, they see the first person they see, they're all pumped up, blam! They start blasting, some innocent person gets blasted.
Guns or weapons in the car?
Freeman absorbs all the information he can. As head of BSO's gang unit, he's hoping to learn enough from police and gang members out here to give his unit an edge in controlling the newly developing gangs in Broward County. The L.A. County Sheriff's Office and the LAPD have hundreds of deputies and officers assigned to gang units. BSO has 4 men. In L.A., the police spend much of their time intercepting gang members, trying to prevent shootings, and at the same time gathering intelligence on what's planned for that evening. Freeman watches, participates, and learns how deeply rooted the hatred is between the rival gangs.
You got ID with you? Yeah, I've been shot before. Shot at people. Just shot people, you know what I'm saying? That's just the thing of the gang, you know what I'm saying? Shoot my homeboy, I'll kill yours.
Now, when you hear something like that, you want to believe, you want to hope that it's just a lot of bragging, a lot of talk. Unfortunately, the killing is so real here that oftentimes the media doesn't even cover some of these shootings that happen around town. Now, right now, the gangs in South Florida are nowhere near as violent as their counterparts here, but Lieutenant Freeman says that LA-style gang violence is just around the corner for South Florida unless something is done now, and we'll talk more about that at 11. Susan, Bob?
There's no reason why it wouldn't be the same here. The same forces are still at play. There's the poverty, there's the crack cocaine here, there's the boredom.
All that is here, but the situation here is so much more advanced. Lieutenant Freeman says it's about 10 years more advanced than it is in South Florida. And in South Florida, the gangs do not control the drug dealing like they do out here, so that's a big factor in the violence level.
All right, Ari, thank you. A mysterious murder at a motel along Fort Lauderdale Beach. Police say a man in his late 50s was found dead in a room inside the Jolly Roger Hotel. A cleaning woman found the body, and right now authorities are investigating. No further details are known, and his identity has not yet been released. A new development tonight in the murder case of Charlie Commander, the man accused of killing and mutilating 29-year-old Julie Murphy. Tonight, Channel 4 News has learned Commander has told his story to his cellmate, Richard Bryan, who in turn gave the information to the state as a witness. Meantime, New Jersey detectives are in town, still investigating Commander's possible link to a similar murder in that state.
Not a great idea to try and grow marijuana in your hydroponic garden and to do it by stealing electricity from Florida Power and Light. But that's what police say William Furcorn and his wife were doing in their Leisure Drive home in South Dade. Officers confiscated 100 pot plants, each a couple of feet tall, and arrested Furcorn and his wife. Metro Dade police say an anonymous call tipped them off. An anonymous tip also led police to a huge cocaine bus yesterday in Southwest Dade. Almost a ton of cocaine was found in what appears to be an abandoned home. Neighbors say they never saw any suspicious activity at that house. Metro police claim the coke is valued at some $15 million.
A woman who might have tried to commit suicide last week by causing a terrible auto accident is off the critical list tonight. In fact, doctors at North Broward Medical Center say 27-year-old Chris Preby is now in good condition. She was driving the wrong way on the Sawgrass Expressway last week when she slammed into another car, killing a baby and 2 adults. The woman's blood alcohol tests are not yet complete. A Lauderdale Lakes woman is recovering from an accident tonight. 20-year-old Kimberly Greenman was sitting on a bus bench in North State Road 7 when a car went out of control and hit her. Greenman was thrown 25 feet and landed with a broken leg and possible fractured hip. The driver has been charged in that accident.
An accident's forced a water warning for Biscayne Bay. Experts saying the waterway is still contaminated with raw sewage. Channel 4's Bonnie Anderson says that means swimmers are urged to stay out of the water.
While health officials took samples of bay water last Tuesday, it wasn't until Friday that the test conclusively showed Biscayne Bay was contaminated. And today, authorities say samples taken over the weekend aren't much better.
The preliminary indications for the Sunday sample also indicates that we continue to have a high bacteria count well above the 1,000, which is the limit that we set for being considered safe to swim in.
Heavy rains early last week overwhelmed sewage pipes near the Miami River. Human waste overflowed into the river, then out to Biscayne Bay. The area contaminated includes the water between the MacArthur Causeway south to both sides of the Rickenbacker Causeway. Hepatitis and salmonella are just two of a number of diseases carried in human waste.
In this particular case, we're looking at, say, some gastrointestinal problem, vomiting, diarrhea, nausea, cramps, and things of that nature that are associated with the type of enteric pathogens that we may expect to find in human sewage.
But despite the highly publicized warning, some people today took a chance anyway.
I'm from New York, came down to visit, and then I read in the paper that the water was contaminated.
So you went swimming anyway?
Yeah, I went swimming, but then I got scared and came out.
Others weren't sure about the water either, but erred on the side of caution.
No, I don't know if it still is. I just decided to be on the safe side, not go in.
But two other South Floridians who spent the morning in the water were shocked to learn about the problem.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, I'm glad you told us, because we didn't know anything about it.
Right.
We're not reading the news.
Like, are you going to go back in?
I don't think so.
I don't know. Maybe I changed my mind. Forget it.
In Miami, Bonnie Anderson, Channel 4 News.
They fought to keep our country free. Now our vets are fighting to stay independent. We're going to show you a supermarket of services for veterans.
Southern Bell callers hearing something besides dial tone. We'll tell you why.
And where can you take part in a crime without being arrested? We're going to show you as the Channel 4 News continues.
8 Cuban men tonight surviving a life-threatening float to freedom and ending up off the coast of Florida. Coast Guard officials say they came in 3 separate groups. The first group came in an inner tube and found adrift 10 miles northeast of Miami. The second, also in an inner tube, spotted about 130 miles south of Miami. The third group found in a 10-foot raft near Key Largo. All are in the hands now of INS and are reported to be in good spirits.
Veterans that sailed for Cuba in the Bay of Pigs are waging a new battle tonight. Veterans who fought Castro in the failed 1961 invasion are mounting a campaign to get official recognition as U.S. veterans of the armed forces. The veteran status would give about 750 Cuban-born fighters medical benefits. Veterans who may need help but don't know how to get it were able to go shopping for services today. Channel 4's Ileana Bravo has the story.
Bronze Star, see? You only get this if you're out there facing bullets.
80-year-old Robert Whitaker has plenty of war stories to tell, and some of them came way after the war.
Right now, I'm on a pulse meter. I have to sleep with oxygen. I have to take 5 different kinds of medicine.
He is only one of the 500,000 South Florida war veterans who now need their country to serve them. But finding the right services in the right agencies isn't always easy. So the agencies came to them today in a veritable supermarket of veterans assistance. What organizers want is to take the veterans out of that VA hospital setting and onto neutral ground and help them solve their problems one-on-one.
We've had people here today who had no idea what benefits they're entitled to or what's coming to them or anything else.
Nothing bothers me. When I was a prisoner of war, I hung up my hat and I was home.
Eric Olson, a former prisoner of war, never bothered to put in for what he deserved, figuring just being alive was enough.
He has been beaten by the Japanese. He has hearing defects. He's never put a claim in for this delayed stress.
Now he will get more financial help and is even putting in for some medals of honor he has coming. Robert Whitaker will also get the helping hand he deserves.
He's trying to see that when I die, there are benefits in here
for your wife.
Your wife gets, see?
The veterans have given so much for their country, and they've gotten so little back.
But today they got some of it back. Call it their early 4th of July. In North Miami, Ileana Bravo, Channel 4 News.
Southern Bell getting static today from hundreds of customers in Broward and Palm Beach counties. Why? Well, the customers say they're getting static from Southern Bell every time they make a call. Seems the insulation on many drought-parched phone lines has cracked, exposing bare wire to the recent rains. And voila, that means static and sputtering when you make a call. Southern Bell says it's working overtime to correct the problem. Another record day on Wall Street. The Dow gaining more than 34 points in active trade to close at 29.35. Advances leading declining issues 5-2. Utilities up nearly 4 points. The Nasdaq Composite Index up nearly 3.5 points to close at 465.61 on a volume of 107,248,000 shares. There on your screen, your average share price changes for both the New York Stock Exchange and the Nasdaq.
Well, who says lightning never strikes twice in the same place? Lightning strikes twice in the same spot, the same family. That story coming up.
Thousands of dollars seized in Miami couldn't buy a single share of stock. We'll show you why.
And you might think this competitor at the French Open was washed up. The surprising finish later in sports.
Updating some of the top stories in our news at this hour. 4 men are busted for allegedly operating a counterfeiting ring. Federal agents say they found some of the fake money floating in the Miami River. The federal government says it won't give defense attorneys any information on Manuel Noriega's assets. They want some of the money released so they can get paid. An Orlando area woman is dead after being struck in the chest by a bolt of lightning. The same jolt which also hit her sister, burning her left hand.
That's awful.
Well,
we've got some awful weather around here.
Yeah, you got to be really. Lightning is probably the worst killer of anything in the U.S. Over 600 people a year.
Really?
And what you really have to be careful about is not to just venture out when we have showers and thunderstorms, because they are really severe and fierce.
We had a lot of lightning this afternoon?
Yes, we had a lot around. I want to show you something. Let's go up to North Lauderdale. How about that? They had trees down all over the place. The winds were ferocious out of these thunderstorms. Right now you're seeing perhaps some debris, but a little bit earlier it was all over the place. The crews have been cleaning it up. They're still cleaning it up. It looks a lot better now than it did before. And in the meantime, I think you're going to find that the weather here is going to be wet for a while and then should improve. 76 Miami, the Beach 83, Kendall 74, Fort Lauderdale 84, Sunrise 79, and Key West is 88 degrees. The barometer 3003 rising, humidity 82%, the winds out of the south 17, temperature of the water 81. There are the air quality for Dade and Broward counties. The record high today 98, and the sun sets at 8:01 p.m. Okay, let's take a look at the very latest. This is the 6 o'clock picture. Now, the folks up around Palm Beach County are going to be in it a little bit longer. You see it's still recessed, so these coming out of the northeast, as they move towards the northeast, it'll be a while there. Here we still have some weather right along the coast, stretching from about Homestead all the way up to North Lauderdale, and that's going to be there for a while. So plan on another hour or so of some showers, some thunderstorms, some more local flooding, and after that it should be over for the rest of the night. As far as driving tonight, it's going to be hazardous, so take your time, drive slowly, leave early, and be prepared for some slowdowns and some stops. Generally, if you take a look at the overall weather picture, the pattern around the country really hasn't been terrible. Here you look at the east, that's already out. Last night it was horrendous. They had tornadoes stretching Indiana, Ohio, all the way into Texas. One section, I think, of Indiana reported over 50 of them. But over through the north, it's calmed down just a little bit. Here are the synoptic features. There's high pressure now, began to settle in. Early in the morning, it'll be really cold up through that area with some frost, freezing temperatures, but it'll warm up considerably by afternoon. Our forecast, partly sunny. Look for some afternoon showers and thunderstorms again, but not like today. The high 90 to 95, the low 75. The winds will be out of the south at about 10. The sea's about 1 to 3 feet and waters near shore a light chop. Your 5-day forecast, well, just look for some sunshine in the early morning hours, some showers in the afternoon hours, and a lot of high temperatures between 90, 95 degrees most of the time. And that's just about it. We're going to be in almost summertime situation, and nothing in the tropics right now of any significance.
Seems like summer to me. Almost.
Almost.
We're in the thick of it. Well, he has had a stormy career off the field. Could Jose Canseco be finally settling down?
Well, now he's letting his bat do the talking.
And a colorful museum going red lights and siren in downtown Miami. We're going to show you some arresting exhibits when the Channel 4 News continues.
Listen to Tony Sports Updates every weekday morning on Magic 102.7.
I don't know about this French Open. Tournament of thrills or tournament of upsets?
Both thrills and upsets, but the start of the second week of the French Open began like the start of the first week with a major upset.
4th-seeded Gabby Sabatini, a part-time Key Biscayne resident, was beaten in straight sets by 11th-seeded Jana Novotna. Now, when you can hit a drop volley like this, you know it's going to be your day. Now, she won the first set 6-4, led 2-love in the second, when watch her twist her ankle here on the backhand. Now, she took a 5-minute timeout, but came back to play, and she picked up right where she left off, taking a 4-love lead in the second set with winners like that, forehand cross-court. Sabatini did stage a mini comeback, but it wasn't enough, as she said au revoir to the French Open. The second year in a row she's lost in the 4th round. Novotna takes it. There you see it, 6-4, 7-5. Now, it appeared another upset was in the making as number 2 Monica Seles lost the first 4 out of 5 games against Laura Gildemeister, the last woman on the tour to beat Seles. That was over 2.5 months ago in Boca Raton. Seles could only watch that forehand, but then the 16-year-old turned it around in a hurry, and she put on a clinic, winning the next 11 games. Now, watch her here. She's going to run around the backhand and use the forehand and just put it away for a winner. Jennifer Capriati just kicking back. She will battle Mary Jo Fernandez tomorrow. Seles lost only 4 points in the second set, needing only 16 minutes to advance to the quarterfinals with a 6-4 and love victory. Now, in men's action today, Frenchman André Lecomte knocked off Andrei Chesnikov in 5 sets. Lecomte was a finalist in 1988. Also, Jonas Svensson sent 15-seeded Guillermo Perez Roldan packing with a 4-set victory. He waited through 18 phone calls and probably what seemed like an eternity, but Alex Fernandez's dream of playing Major League Baseball took a big, big step forward today. The Chicago White Sox finally called the former Hurricane pitcher early this afternoon, making him the first pitcher to be chosen in the Major League Amateur Draft, 4th player overall. Fernandez will start off in Sarasota with the White Sox single-A camp, but his thoughts are on the big show, the Major Leagues.
What's going through my mind, how soon can I get up there? And you're not worried about how long you're going to play in the minor leagues, how long you're going to play in the big leagues. The most important thing is how long you're going to stay up there. It's not getting there. A lot of people get there, but they can't stay there. Everybody says, you know, I want to be a professional baseball player, and it's come true. And now I'm still a ways to go, and it's not done yet. I got to get to the big leagues and stay there for 10 to 15 years.
Great, great guy. Other draft notes, Miami pitcher Oscar Munoz was drafted in the 5th round by Cleveland. Westminster Christian's Ron Caradad was selected in the 2nd round by Minnesota. The New York Yankees, stuck in last place in the American League East, traded pitching for hitting today, sending starter Clay Parker and reliever Lance McCullers to the Detroit Tigers for catcher Matt Noakes. One man who's not likely to be traded in the near future is Miami and Jose Canseco, who has led the Oakland A's to the top of the American League West. Now, I know it's early, but Canseco could be considered a Triple Crown threat. 19 home runs, 49 RBIs, a .326 batting average. That's 7th in the American League. But he doesn't spend a lot of time pondering the thought of a Triple Crown.
The main concern on my mind right now is becoming world champions again, which is going to be difficult. It's something that hasn't been done in a long time. But with the team, with the hard work that we are applying to ourselves, I think we'll be able to do it this year. You know, goals come secondary to that.
All right, the Big Ten is officially the Big 11 today. University presidents voted Penn State in the conference, although it wasn't a unanimous vote. The earliest Penn State could start playing in major sports, 1995. Chris McCarron, I want you to watch the lower part of your screen. One of the country's top jockeys was seriously injured yesterday at Hollywood Park. Watch the lead horse number 3, ridden by Kent Desmareau, break down, causing this mishap. Now, McCarron, riding behind the horse, broke his upper left leg and right arm and injured his right knee. Desmareau, luckily, suffered only a broken rib. The good news, if there is any, McCarron's injuries, thank goodness, are not career-threatening. Okay.
Those are always so dramatic.
Oh, absolutely.
The horses.
Absolutely. All right, that'll do it for sports.
Thanks, Tony.
Okay.
Well, if you've chalked up occasional headaches to tension, you're going to want to tune in tonight at 11 on the Channel 4 News. There is evidence those headaches are not due to tension at all. We're going to bring you the story. We'll also continue our live coverage on the Los Angeles gang problem and how it relates to the conditions here. And from Broward, Battle 2 in the war against toxic waste disposal companies as residents mount their front against Sanimed. That's tonight on the Channel 4 News Nightcast.
Well, you might think Miami's brand new American Police Museum is just a place to look at badges and guns. But not in John Holden's world. He's found a 2nd floor where a one-of-a-kind investigation is taking place.
It's a dead giveaway a museum has something to do with law enforcement when they hang an entire police car on the building above you.
The reason for it is to show the precarious nature of police work. It's very unusual because it's one and only in the country.
And it's true, the exhibits in this $2 million police museum are one of a kind from around the globe, whether it's a futuristic police car or a chance to visit an authentic Bahamian jail.
Here, people can kind of get a hands-on look at things as
to what police officers really use and handle and go through and are exposed to.
And then there are those historical items on display that we hope to never be exposed to.
This is a replica of the gas chamber. We have the gun that John Dillinger used. We have an electric chair.
It's not something I normally want to sit in, but what the heck? It's an exhibit. So I can strap myself in. It's kind of comfortable. Imagine if somebody flipped the switch right now. Fool ya.
But probably the highlight of this museum is being able to play a police officer yourself in this recreated crime scene.
And here we have an outline of where the body was found. And of course we have a lot of clues.
But finding those clues and knowing what to do with them once you find them, now that's the real test of today's modern detective.
Could very well have been killed by this candlestick. I'll have to make a note of that. The gun. Whoever killed Uncle handled the gun.
Okay, so maybe some of us are cut out for law enforcement and some of us haven't a clue. In Miami, John Holden, Channel 4 News.
I kept expecting to see Perry Mason walk in at any moment.
No Columbo heat, that's for sure.
That's true. That's it for us. The NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw is next.
Thank you for joining us. We'll be back tonight at 11. Please join us.
We'll see you then.
If you have a Cellular One phone, dial *4 whenever you see news. You'll be connected right into the Channel 4 newsroom, where we want to hear from you.